Today, we recognize some of our members who have been a part of this beloved community for ages, those who joined the church 50 years ago or more, and those who joined 25 years ago. What comes to my mind are the words of Adrienne Rich. "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed, I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." These members have reconstituted our congregation, and in so doing have also remade the world. They chose to invest their time, energy, and love with the people, ideals, and commitments they found here. They put their faith in this community. They cast their lots with us through challenging and enriching times, not knowing for sure what would come of their investment. And in so doing, they have shaped our beloved community for the better. We are now in such challenging times when so much has been and is being destroyed on a daily basis. It is times like this when we must carefully choose where to cast our lots. Casting lots was a form of divination in ancient times. It was a way of discerning which way to go and how to make claims. The Romans cast lots for Jesus' clothing after he was crucified. Here and now, we endeavor to make our choices based on truth and reason and science. But we also make our choices based on faith. Faith in one another, not knowing precisely how our choices will pan out. Will our investment in each other bear the fruit we hope and plan for? Sometimes, yes, we get exactly what we might expect. Sometimes we're disappointed and get something other than what we hope for. And often, we are surprised and delighted with the unexpected gifts we receive when we invest in one another, without guarantees of how things will turn out. For this is the very best we can do with this precious life, to hope and to cast our lots with one another, with those who age after age, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Hopefully that sound is good.
What does it mean to you to be Jerry?
I think it means that, for one thing,
Can it be louder there?
I'm not told how I have to believe or what I have to do. I'm given directions of things that I could do that would be good for the world, and I'm given spiritual support so I can decide what I believe and how I can make myself a better person. But also, it's very active in things that are important to the community, and that's always been important to me. This is a picture of the choir.
Wow, very.
Yeah, it's so different. It's really cool.
You always do hope for you see change in the future? Oh my! I hope that we continue to be more and more social justice oriented this time as well, and welcoming to people of different backgrounds, ideas. That's when Dr. King spoke. It was, I can actually remember the day. It was October 31st, Halloween, 1962. And there was an open occupancy movement on the North Shore. And Dr. King spoke here that evening. Studs Turtle was the MC. I was a senior in high school, and they asked the high school students to come in and set up extra chairs, and there was such a big crowd. It's the most people we ever had at church. We had people sitting up the stairs and up on the mezzanine.
And you said, oh, Unitarian, well, what's that? I think, to me, it has always been, the only definition I can give it is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But it's totally open as far as I'm concerned. And the purpose, perhaps, of the church is to make our lives have significance, and that encourages relationships with other people.
So that video was made with our young people who interviewed some of our long-term members last spring, and so those are just a few snippets that came from those conversations, which, I want to thank George Monacle for putting that video together so well and so lovingly. It's my pleasure to introduce our honored members today, many of whom are here, but not everybody was able to attend today. I hope that in the weeks and days to come that you'll join me in honoring them and welcoming them and thanking them for all the time, expressing gratitude for the love and the dedication and the resilience that they've shown and given to our community for so long. They've maintained the building, they've helped the community thrive, and they've cared for our children. They've laid the seeds and cultivated the community of mutual care and empowerment that we all know and love today. So as you're enjoying cake today, there's cake after each service. So when you're enjoying cake, ask them about their experience and thank them. You'll know them because they're wearing a white rose on their shirt. But before I name our honored members, I want to express my deepest appreciation for Margaret Shackley, who has kept so much of our history for decades. She's written beautiful accounts of long-term members over the years. Most of what we share with you today are her words. And Linda LaPlante is another keeper of our shared history. And she and I looked through picture albums together, and she told me wonderful stories of our church elders. So thank you both very much.
We're going to start this morning by introducing those who have joined the church in the mid to late 1950s, celebrating 58 to 68 years of belonging here. We'll mention some of the ways they have contributed to our community, knowing this barely scratches the surface. Bud and Zeal Brock joined in 1959. Bud served on buildings and grounds for decades, dealing with a cranky furnace and leaky windows. He also volunteered in religious education and as an usher. Zeal has faithfully served on the caring committee and pastoral care team and has sung with the choir for many years. Katie Beck joined the church in 1958. She was drawn to UCE by her aunt and greatly admired Dr. Homer Jack, who was the minister then. She taught religious education, also sang in the choir, and marched and rallied with Reverend Charles Edis for integrated housing.
Jerry and Irene Adler joined in 1957. They were married by Reverend Homer Jack. Irene played the violin and started a string ensemble in 1959, and Jerry has relished the intellectual discussions here. Jerry wanted to share some thoughts from his 60 years of membership. He says, UCE needs to know as much of the Bible as of U.S. history. Both have value, even if both have myths, miracles, and half-truths. And he also says, today I have no saviors, no scapegoats, only struggles. Lucia Miller joined the church with her husband Harry in 1956. She ran the rummage sale for years and served on the search committee that led to UCE calling Charles Edis as our minister. Lee Banner came to the church with his parents at age 4 in 1949 when the church was on Chicago Avenue. So, although his official membership doesn't begin until 1970, he has been a part of this community longer than anyone. Lee's done many things, from stewardship to social justice to serving on the board of trustees, but his favorite thing was volunteering in the nursery every Sunday.
The slides are on auto rotate, so we're a little behind, but everything we're talking about will eventually catch up. In case you're thinking, push the button, push the button. In 1958, at the end of Homer Jack's 10-year ministry, we moved from the sweet little church on Chicago Avenue, which we'd outgrown, to this beautiful building. Membership had grown from 150 to 400, and they could no longer squeeze in with folding chairs packed in the aisles. Those who joined UCE in the 1960s, celebrating 50 to 56 years of membership, include Patrick and Judith Ebenho, who joined in 1967. They were both raised Catholic and in search of a new religious community, looked up Unitarianism in the encyclopedia. That's like a precursor to Wikipedia, I think. Pat has enjoyed the philosophy and ideas in the Sunday service. Judy was involved in religious education and started with a friend the first trip to Boston for middle school children. They have both enjoyed friendship dinners and intergenerational connections. David and Alma Woods also joined in 1967. They were married in the Universalist Church in Minneapolis before the merger. They were both involved in the RE program, and Dave has been greeting and helping newcomers to feel welcome for many decades. He's also served as stewardship chair and with the adult programming committee. He currently leads the men's group. Alma is a lifelong Universalist. She's led canvas dinners, rummage sale efforts, and is the longest singing choir member. She served on the search committee that brought the Reverend Roger Fritz to UCE. She currently helps organize memorial receptions and serves on the accessibility team.
Sam Sibley joined in 1966 and soon led the Beacon Young Adults Club, a group held at Reverend Homer Jack's home on the Northwestern campus. There, Sam met his wife, Cammie. He organized the rummage sale for 6 years, helped with the children's choir in the 1980s, and participated in Sing Thing with John LaPlante. Jean and Ron Novalis joined in 1964. Jean also grew up as a Universalist in Minneapolis. She taught Sunday school and served on the Board of Trustees. Jean is currently involved in the knitting ministry known as Common Threads. Ron has enjoyed the quiet space of Unitarian churches and has often shared his musical gifts with the church playing piano in summertime. Martha Jantho joined in 1963. Her mother was a Unitarian, and she was also part of the Beacon Club. She served as secretary of the board and managed the membership rolls for many years. She helped with the rummage sale in the children's department and was the first female usher. Imagine that.
Mary Sproul joined the church with her husband Alex in 1961 when Ross Weston was the minister. She helped with office work when Elaine Mensinger had her days off and was part of the Women's Alliance. She's been part of social action and efforts against racism, and she remains an active member of the choir. After Reverend Homer Jack left the church, UCE called Ross Allen Weston a dynamic speaker, and rapid growth continued for the church. However, when it was discovered that Weston was plagiarizing his sermons, it polarized the community and led to his resignation in 1964. Also, during the decades prior to 1964, allegations of clergy misconduct in the form of improper relationships with adult women in the church led to mistrust and harm between ministers and laity. As clergy, and Reverend Eileen and I talked about this a bit, it's important to name when our profession has failed to live up to the trust given to us by you, so we don't repeat those mistakes. In 1966, Charles Addis was called to be our minister, bringing in some repair to the community. He led the congregation in campaigns for open housing and voting rights. Many speakers of note came to UCE in the 1960s, including Martin Luther King Jr., Studs Terkel, Dick Gregory, Margaret Mead, and James Baldwin. In 1963, when the congregation of Beth Emmet wanted to build their sanctuary across the street, they faced anti-Semitism. This congregation stood with them in support and solidarity in City Hall. Our mitten tree program began in 1960, collecting hats and mittens for local children. And in 1961, Martel Lansdorf painted the mural right there that still hangs behind you this day.
Jumping ahead to 1992 and 93, we honor these folks celebrating 25 years of membership. Marcia Achenbach has been a part of the pastoral care team and chaired the caring committee for many years. Jean Budson was the co-chair of the stewardship team and helped to develop the Integrated Stewardship Council. She was also a covenant group leader. Jim Strickler has been involved in community organizing and social justice efforts and wrote a grant to fund the social action coordinator position. Thank you to Jim. He is currently teaching the junior high students our Building Bridges curriculum. Oh, we're going faster now. Sorry about that.
Ellie Feddersen has sung in the choir for many years and served on the search committee that brought me to this church. Her family has enjoyed the UCE camping trip, and Ellie has been in one of the longest existing covenant groups. Rose Kirtland has been involved in social justice, particularly racial justice efforts, and she's also a member of a covenant group. Jill and Robert Moore raised their children in our religious education program, and Jill is now active on our hospitality team. When these folks joined, Reverend Roger Fritz was the senior minister, and Reverend Frank Robertson was the associate minister for religious education. We had just built the wing of our building a few years before, and we also started serving a weekly meal here on Thursdays through the Evanston Ecumenical Action Council, the precursor to today's Interfaith Action of Evanston. We were then, as we remain, a vital force for social justice and action in Evanston.
Those of you who are here today celebrating these significant anniversaries, would you please rise in body or spirit? We honor and thank you for sharing yourselves.
You too, Sarah.
We thank you for sharing yourselves with us for so long and with so much care. As we consider the thousands of collective volunteer hours that our longest-term members have invested here, we must turn our attention to the work before us now and what will be ours to do in the future. What would these keepers of our history have us do with their spiritual and religious home in the days and years ahead? How do we keep the flame that they have tended for so many years burning bright? Each year we try to spend some time recognizing the countless ways that volunteers support the ministries of this church. We usually do this in June, but we're trying something different this year. Brett and I know well that it is not up to us alone as ordained ministers to create and uphold the work of this church. Far from it. Our role is to accompany you, to help nurture and sustain a vision, and to hold with you the frustrations, sorrows, hopes, and dreams of this congregation. We are all together the ones who embody the work of the church. I know that you appreciate one another, and I encourage you to continue to cultivate that practice of mutual appreciation for all you do to bolster this thriving community. Celebrate together, challenge each other, and express your sincere gratitude to one another. Appreciation for this beloved community is something we co-create. We bring each other into belonging and help each other to grow. I've been reminded this week that joy is an act of resistance. We make joy a reality when we see and appreciate one another. So let us create together the spirit of gratitude and love for all who serve this congregation now and who have done so for years. Do you want to help me?
We are grateful for those who challenge us and inspire us to seek more justice here and around the world.
We are grateful for those who strive to make peace.
We are grateful for those who lessen our footprint and maintain our building.
We are grateful for those who help us grow, collect, and manage our resources.
We are grateful for those who provide food, clean up, set up for meetings, services, and events.
We are grateful for those who spread the word about Unitarian Universalism.
We are grateful to those who manage data, tell our stories, and offer their own perspectives.
We are grateful for those who teach our children and learn alongside them.
We are grateful for the beauty we share through music and the arts.
We are grateful for the intellectual stimulation we provide through conversation and discussion.
We are grateful for those who lead, who lean into discomfort, who are uncertain but show up anyway.
We are grateful to those who are newly finding our church, for they bring us new insight, inspiration, and purpose.
And to those who are even now on their way to us, may we appreciate new faces and recognize unique gifts as they arrive.
We are grateful for each other, for what we receive and what we are able to give. In the most recent edition of Quest, the newsletter of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, Reverend Kate Walker writes about giving and receiving as the master plan of the universe. She says, the value we place on community requires us to walk with one another, to be with one another in an eternal giving and receiving of love, compassion, solace, and celebration. We are searching for hope in a world often filled with an empty landscape. Yet it is in our DNA to both reach out to one another for hands to help when we are lost in the wilderness, and to respond with an outstretched hand, ready to grasp, pull in, and offer refuge. Although I know there are probably many, I want you to think of one person who has impacted your experience here at church, someone who has loved you into belonging, someone who has offered you a gift of deeper understanding, greater connectivity, friendship, learning, growth, or challenge. Think of one person who you have come to know in some way. It could be through an action or activity that you worked on together. It could be something simple like a genuine conversation at coffee hour, a connection at a friendship dinner or in a covenant group. It could be someone you have worked with at the rummage sale, someone who has engaged your child with gentleness and wisdom, or someone who has brought you a meal when you were sick. It may be the person who greeted you this morning. Hold this person just for a moment in your mind and in your heart. See their face, their smile, their eyes. Think about the difference they have made in your life and in your experience here. Think about the qualities you admire in them. Think about the gifts they've given you. You each received a piece of paper in your order of service this morning with a drawing of our guest chalice on it. I'm going to ask you to use this piece of paper to write down on the back the name of that person that you thought of and the gift they've given you. If you're able to stay for our Ornament Sunday today, you can decorate this and punch a hole in it and hang it from our tree. If you're not able to stay, please leave this with us. There will be people with baskets that you can drop them into, and I personally will color in this chalice for you, or somebody at the Ornament Sunday activity will color it in for you and hang it from the tree. And then as the coming weeks pass us by, just come up and take a look at the tree and see the beauty that's created by our mutual appreciation for one another. And as a very small token of appreciation and thanks for all you do, we've had these little match boxes, I should say, made up for you. It says, you light the chalice at UCE, and there'll be people passing these out as you leave the sanctuary today. Use it to keep the flame of UCE burning bright. There are so many ways we have touched one another's lives, so many reasons to be grateful. We can each be thankful for every person here today, for showing up, for bringing yourselves, your gifts, whatever they may be, to this place and to this world. Each of you is a gift to this world and to this community. May we continue to fill each other with appreciation and gratitude. May we recognize the gifts we bring and share them with generous spirits, renewed by giving and receiving. May it be so, and may we make it so.